we don't expand our imagination.
Justification for being what
Welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm Bill Plante. Beautiful day here at the White House, and the President is welcoming the nation's governors. They're going in at the North Portico entrance right now. And their topics today are going to be the ones you'd imagine: jobs and health care. It's the nitty-gritty down at the state level, and we'd like to find out how they're reacting to all the politics in Washington. So earlier today, I spoke with the chairman of the National Governors Association, Governor Jim Douglas of Vermont, a Republican, and with its vice chairman, Governor Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a Democrat. Take a listen. Governor Manchin, Governor Douglas, the hot topic here is health care, as you both well know. And the governors have been demanding a seat at the table, more of participation. I want to ask you about that, and I also want to ask you about today's big headline, which is that the President is proposing to give the Secretary of Health and Human Services the authority to block any rate increase by the insurance companies that they don't think is warranted. Where do you go on that? Take it away.
Well, historically, insurance regulation has been handled at the state level, and I think that works best with regulation closest to the people. I think what we need, though, is a seat at the table to talk with the federal authorities, both in the administration and the Congress, about where we go on health care reform generally. We have to get those costs under control. Frankly, I think a lot of the debate in Washington has been about whether we expand Medicaid or have public or private plans, but unless we get costs under control, we're going to be broke either way.
Let me just say that in West Virginia and all the states that we are responsible day to day, and by the end of the year we have to balance our budgets. As Governor Douglas just said, cost is the most effective thing that we have on our budgets, and insurance reforms, health care reforms. We know one thing, that we cannot live with double-digit inflation in health care, especially in our Medicaid budgets. And it's something that we want to be at the table. And we believe they're listening to us, hopefully, and hearing us loud and clear. But governors are not leaving the table. We're still committed to a health care reform that works for each and every one of us.
Well, Governor Manchin, I know you've criticized the way health care reform has been handled. What would you do? What do you see as the way forward?
You know, I said if I could wave my wand, what I would do first of all is make sure that everyone, when I got a procedure, they give me a bill that I could understand, and then I could start questioning, is it really this costly? Did I really get that? Why did it cost so much? So universal billing would be my first start. Make everybody in America that's receiving any health procedure get a total itemized bill that they understand. That's the first. You're never going to have change unless you have value to the system. Next of all, make sure that we go in and do the things that we think that we all agree upon, which is very simple. Portability, basically catastrophic illnesses should not have a cap, and then pre-existing conditions should not be a prohibition about getting insurance.
Okay.
There are certain things that we all agree on.
Well, now, Governor Douglas, Vermont has a health plan. How would you take it forward?
I think a key is state flexibility. We have to be sure that the federal government recognizes that one size doesn't fit all. States are at different places along the road to health care reform. The demographics are quite different in various states. We shouldn't have a federal mandate that automatically expands Medicaid to some national level without giving states the financial support and flexibility to put in plans that they feel are right for their states. I think that recognition by the Congress is key.
Bill, now, do either of you think that this idea that the President is proposing today, that the Health and Human Services Secretary have the power to block increases that they consider unwarranted, will that fly?
Bill, if I may say on that, and I think that Jim touched on it earlier, that each state really controls its insurance, if you will, and its insurance rates and how they do business in our states.
Right.
I think basically if the federal government wants to give us some guidelines and some critical areas where we need to check, and then give us some incentives or help, if you will, to make sure that we live within these guidelines, but just to say carte blanche, this is it, we know best, that's hard for governors to sit back and say, okay, we'll go ahead and give you that one. And both sides of the fence, Democrats and Republicans, will weigh in on that today, basically saying, is there a better way that we can go down this path together as partners and not one dictating to the other?
Okay, let's talk about the stimulus bill. Now, your colleague, Governor Rendell of Pennsylvania, said on one of the weekend news broadcasts that the Republicans outmaneuvered the Democrats. He said, we lost the spin war from the get-go, and once you lose it, it's hard to get back. What do you think?
Well, I think most governors of both parties appreciate the support from the Recovery Act that was passed last year. We might have designed it differently if we had our way, but at a time when states were facing huge shortfalls because of the economic collapse, we needed that bridge financing to provide the opportunity to build infrastructure, create jobs, and get on to what we hope will be a better day. The question now is there going to be more support for states? And there might be some, but governors are working hard all across America to tighten our belts, to live within our means, to balance our budgets, and we're going to continue to make those tough decisions regardless of what Washington does.
Governor Manchin, they're talking about another jobs bill here and up on the Hill. What would you like to see in it, should there be one?
Yeah, Bill, it's all about jobs, and I think right now people are starting to question, is there really jobs that came out of the amount of money that's been invested? And I believe you're going to see the fruits of that happening. It's been slower than what people would have liked. And let me tell you one thing, the little state of West Virginia, we're the only state that really applied for a statewide stimulus funding on broadband. Broadband and high-speed and internet hookup is essential to what the interstate was to a generation before us. We are going to now, with the help of the federal government in this investment, we'll be able to have every school, every hospital, every library wired, completely wired in the state of West Virginia. We're one of the most rural states in the nation, and for this to happen is huge for us, and it's going to give us a chance to create good jobs in every area of our state. So this is all about jobs. Yes, I believe they should direct more capital to the private sector, to where we can get small businesses that have income flowing, capital flowing again, that they can make things happen.
Governor Douglas, what do you think about that?
Well, even if the federal government comes through with $25 billion more, which is what's been discussed, we have shortfalls projected over the next couple of years of about $134 billion in state budgets. So governors are going to continue to have to rein in state spending, make some difficult choices, make sure that we establish priorities in our states and live within our means. That's what families and businesses are doing all across America. The bottom line is we need to get Americans back to work. These historic rates of unemployment are dragging our economy. It's preventing us from getting back on the road to prosperity. So whatever we can do to infuse more capital into the marketplace, to put more people back to work, it's going to get more Vermonters, more Americans on the road to prosperity sooner.
But boy, people sure don't like having to get by with less, and that's one of the reasons, I guess, that Congress can't agree on anything. It's not going to be easy, is it?
Well, Bill, you know, when we look at this whole thing right now of where we stand and what's been invested and what needs to be invested, this is basically going to be turned around if the private sector starts doing what it does. It makes things, it builds things, it creates value, consumers spend and they have confidence and they're out in the marketplace. Until that happens, and we don't see that happening right now at the state level, we know we're still got some challenging years ahead of us. This is not turning around as quick as we would like or that we see coming in the next year or so. So we've got to be prepared as governors to get through this to make sure the vital services are still delivered to our citizens.
I'd like to ask both of you to talk about what's going on here in Washington, the way it's been here for the last 2 years, the high degree of partisanship, the outright rancor in many cases. How can that change, and what do you think about it?
It's very disappointing from our standpoint. The governors and the National Governors Association are quite collegial. Governor Manchin and I are good personal friends, as we are with governors of both political parties. And I think the big difference, Bill, is that Washington has the luxury of debating things for as long as they want, while governors have to get the job done. We have to balance budgets. We have to live within our means. We have to make decisions. We have to deliver services to people. So we don't have the opportunity to devolve into the partisan rancor that we see in the nation's capital. I think the American people are fed up, frankly. They see the national debt rising over $12 trillion. I've got a new grandchild. I wonder what percentage of that is going to be his responsibility as the years go by. We have to get everybody to work together as governors do.
Governor Manchin, I'd like to start with you, and then from both of you as a wrap-up here, what's your wish list for your state?
Well, my wish list for my state is more opportunity and more jobs, better quality of jobs, and that all goes with education, making sure we have an education system that really works. I think if we look right now and you understand what we're facing, it's only the Western countries, such as us in Germany, basically that do not believe that we or our children will attain a level of education that's greater than the generation before us. That's never happened. We've got to change how we do, and I applaud this administration, President Obama and his administration, and Arne Duncan, for taking this on. The race to the top to push us to be better, to think out of the box, to get out of our comfort zone, to make sure we get more people that are engaged in education than dropping out of education. The 21st century job skills will be more demanding than ever. That's what I wish for my state, and I want people to know that we have a state that basically is living within its means. We have budget surpluses. We're able to pay our bills. We're able to work within the parameter, and we will make adjustments like every West Virginian is making every day. And you give us the chance, and you have confidence and faith, you come to West Virginia and we'll make something happen.
Governor Douglas?
My short-term wish is for more snow in Vermont than in the middle Atlantic states and Washington, D.C.
You're welcome to it.
For the long term, Bill, we need to get more people back to work. We've taken tremendous steps forward in health care reform in Vermont. We've been deemed the healthiest state in America in 2 national surveys over the last couple of years, but our economy is still lagging. We have to reduce our tax burden, make the regulatory process less onerous, allow entrepreneurs to make the kind of investment that will create more jobs and get more people in our state back to work. I think we can do it, but it's going to take a couple of years until we get out of this long and deep recession.
Well, Governor Douglas, Governor Manchin, a pleasure talking to you. Maybe one of the reasons you two get along so well is that neither one of you appears to be running for president.
We're running to make America better.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Bill.
both.
Thank you, Bill.
Moving on now from the governors to the Conservative Political Action Conference, which took Washington by storm last week. The Republicans and the Tea Partiers are now seeing the kind of momentum that belonged 2 years ago to President Obama and the Democrats, culminated in a fiery speech by television host Glenn Beck. Our Michelle Levy caught up with Mike Pence, a Republican from Indiana and featured speaker. Take a look.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here from CPAC today. First of all, I have to get your response. Brad Ellsworth announced today that he was getting into the Indiana Senate race, a seat that you were potentially going to go for at some point, maybe. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, no, not really. I think Republicans are well positioned to take that Senate seat. I have a lot of respect for Congressman Ellsworth, but I think Hoosiers were disappointed when he voted for a government takeover of health care, voted for the failed economic policies in the stimulus, and they're looking for new leadership. And we have a number of strong candidates, including a former senator, that have stepped forward for that nomination, and I'm confident will prevail.
Now, there's been a lot of skepticism about Coates and his lobbying past. Do you see anything to that?
Well, look, I think ultimately it's going to be up to the people of Indiana to decide who they want to be their standard bearer in both political parties. And with regard to Senator Coates' past as a lobbyist, I expect people will put that ultimately in the context of his 18 years of service in the House and the Senate, his years of service as ambassador to Germany during the crisis of September the 11th. And my experience with Dan Coates is a man of extraordinary integrity and principle and conservative values, and we wish him well.
Now tell me, there were definitely rumors that you were thinking about running for this Senate seat, and then Evan Bayh decided on Monday to get out. Do you have any regrets about not running?
I really don't. We were very humbled by the encouragement that we received to run for the Senate. We took a weekend to reflect on it and pray about it. But I have to tell you, at the end of the day, it wasn't that hard of a decision for us. I mean, being in a position of House leadership, 9 months from when I truly believe Republicans are poised to take back the House of Representatives for the American people, was just too good to pass up. We may have opportunities to serve in a wider way in the future. We'll consider those then, but for now, being a part of winning Capitol Hill back for the American people was just exactly where I knew I needed to be.
So no change of heart expected down the road?
None.
All right, today you recycled a well-known Democratic nickname for your own party. Why are you okay being known as the party of no?
Well, look, Republicans have been offering solutions over the last year, as the President acknowledged at our retreat in Baltimore. We offered a stimulus bill that cost half as much and would have created twice as many jobs. We offered a budget that reformed entitlements, put our fiscal house in order. We offered an all-of-the-above energy plan. We offered a health care plan that would allow Americans to choose health care and health insurance across state lines and include tort reform. So I think the American people are getting that Republicans have been offering solutions, but as I said today, sometimes no is just what this town needs to hear.
Now I have to ask you this because you're at CPAC today. You're going down to the SELC in the next couple weeks, I believe. Those are traditionally stepping stones on the way to going for a Republican nomination for president. Any plans to run for president in 2012?
I have no plans to run for president at this time. I really have no plans to run for any other office than to seek re-election to the 6th District of Indiana and to do everything in my power the next 9 months to elect a conservative majority to Capitol Hill. I really believe if we focus right now as conservatives on winning back the Congress for the American people, the future will take care of itself.
And you think you can do that?
I believe we can.
Great. Thank you so much, Congressman.
You bet.
Really appreciate it.
You bet.
That's it for today. Thanks again for watching Washington Unplugged. Be sure to join us again tomorrow at cbsnews.com. I'm Bill Plante.
If we don't expand our imagination,
Justification for being what you are.